In the earlier video, what we saw is how we can use relative referencing as well as absolute referencing functions. In this video, we shall see how we can use the combinations of absolute and relative referencings in Excel. So let's take this example that we want to find the minimum scores in English test. So if we type the formula is equal to min, open the round brackets, and then select the cells and so by default, whenever you are applying a formula in Excel, Excel will always select the formulas with relative referencing. And if we want to make it as absolute reference, we can press F4 so that it converts F8 to $F$8, and similarly we can put the cursor at F17 and press F4, and then it converts into F$17. So this becomes an absolute referencing formula. Now if we want to fix the row reference and we want to change the column reference relatively, that is, if we copy this formula into the same column anywhere in the column F, then the row reference should always be from 8 to 17. But if we copy this formula anywhere other than column F, then the column letter should change relatively. So to do that, we want to fix the row reference. So if we remove the $sign ahead of the column reference, and then close the brackets, in this formula, when we write F$8 colon F$17, that means the row reference will remain same from 8 to 17, and colon F reference will relatively change whenever we copy or use the fill operation. So now let's say we press enter and it will calculate the values for me. Now if I try to copy the formula and paste it in the same column, if I press Ctrl C and paste the formula in the same column, what we see is in the formula that all the cell reference does not change because we copied the formula in the same column. So let's say we try to do the right fill in the next 3 columns. So if we select these 3 columns, these 4 columns in fact, and then if you go to the fill option in the home ribbon and select right, what you will get is the referencing from F8 to F17, and when we apply this fill operation, it changes the column letter relatively from F to G. Same way it does for the next 2 cells. So the cell reference changes to H8 to H17, and for column I changes from I8 to I17. So if you want the total of these 3 tests, that is like it's equal to, that is F8 plus G8 plus H8, and then if you press enter, what you will get is your value, that is 208. So similar to locking down the references, we can lock down the column references as well. So say here we are calculating the total scores of each student. So the column will be F8, G8, and H8. And then I press enter, and if you copy this formula into the same row but different column and paste it here, then we see that column reference changes to I8, J8, and K8. And let's delete this formula and say we want to lock down the formula references. For that, we need to put $sign in front of the column letters and go to the formula bar, either type in from the column letter in front of the column letter, or you can use shortcut key F4 to toggle between absolute and relative referencing. It will toggle from relative to absolute referencing, and if you press F4 again, it will toggle to locking down the row referencing, and if you press again, it will toggle to locking down the column referencing. Similarly, we can do to G8. And same way you can do it to H8 as well. If you press F4 3 times. And so now the formula becomes $F8 plus $G8 plus $H8. And then click on the right icon on the formula bar. And now if you try to copy paste, so if suppose I copy this formula and paste it here by pressing Ctrl V on my keyboard, that is in the same row but in a different column, and the column reference doesn't changes but remains the same as earlier. So now if we try to do the fill down operation, let's say we select all the cells and the cell and press Ctrl D on your keyboard to apply the formula to those cells. So when you fill down, you see that the row referencing is changing. That is from 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and so on. But the column reference remains the same, that is F, G, and H. So if you try to copy these cells into some other column or the location, for that, select all cells. So if we select all the cells, and then if I copy, and if I want to paste it in some other column, the formula will still remain the same. Formulas will still be referencing column F, G, and H. And this is how you do the mix of relative and absolute formulas in Excel. And if you go to the summary, it provides the different referencing. So if I select my sheet 2, it provides the different referencing styles, and it means, so first one is by default relative referencing. If you put the $sign in front of both letters and row numbers, it will become absolute referencing. Or if you just put $sign in front of the row number, then the row number is fixed and row referencing will not change during fill and copy operations. only the column reference will change relatively. Similarly, if you put $sign in front of column letter, and in case column reference will change, in case of column reference will be fixed, only row reference will change during copy and fill operation. And as you can see, the last thing is like the keyboard shortcut is F4 to toggle between these four styles. That is relative referencing, absolute referencing, only the row referencing, and only the column referencing. Thank you.